Alrighty, in this video we're looking at the quadratic formula, and basically what this is a formula for giving you the x-intercepts of a quadratic, which works pretty much every time. This is going to be one of the most important lessons of the year because the quadratic formula comes up a whole lot in year 12 and beyond. So if you're wondering where it comes from, I have put a little extension bit in the topic booklet called completing the square, and that's sort of where the quadratic formula comes from. But you don't need to know that to use the quadratic formula. I mean, there it is, the quadratic formula. We can just use it. But if you do want to know where it comes from, have a look at completing the square. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of examples using the quadratic formula. And this first one we actually did using sum and product in the last video. So last time we used sum and product on that. We got x-intercepts of -12 and -2. So let's see if we can get the same answer using the quadratic formula. Hopefully we will. So with the quadratic formula, you first need to label your quadratic with a, b, and c. So a is the number with the x squared, b is with the x, and c is on its own. So if you imagine that like 1x squared, if you think of it like that, then a would be 1, b would be 14, and c would be 24, just like that. So then we'll use our quadratic formula on this. So the quadratic formula tells you the x-intercepts are minus b plus or minus square root of b squared take 4ac over 2a. Don't worry, you'll remember that by the end of the year. And then we'll plug in all of our numbers. So if b was 14, this ends up being minus 14 there, plus or minus square root of 14 squared, take 4 times 1 times 24, all divided by 2 times 1 on the bottom. Now let's keep going. So we got minus 14, plus or minus square root of, if we just work out what this is, in the square root, that's going to be 14 squared, 196, take 4 times 1 times 24, should be 196. Sorry, just normal 96, all over 2. And then that becomes minus 14 plus or minus square root of 100 over 2. Square root of 100 you can check on your calculator. So if you're not sure what it is, have a look. You will do root of 100 and it should give you 10, which it does. So it's going to be minus 14 plus or minus 10 over 2. Now you might be wondering what this symbol is in the middle, this plus or minus looking thing. What that is, well, it means plus 10 or minus 10, and that gives us the two answers. So if I take the plus version, so that would be minus 14 plus 10 over 2, which is minus 4 over 2, which is minus 2. That's sort of like our plus version. Now let's look at our minus version. That's minus 14 take 10 over 2, which is minus 24 over 2. Which is minus 12. So x equals minus 2 or x equals minus 12. Those are our two answers. That's what we got from the last video. If you want to be extra careful, then there's a graph. Those are the x-intercepts. So let's do a more complicated one. Sometimes sum and product does not work, and this graph here is one of those examples. You can try sum and product all you want, but you're not going to solve it. So let's see if we can do this. A is minus 8. B is minus 6, and C is positive 3. So quadratic formula tells us x equals minus b plus or minus square root of b squared take 4ac over 2a. And we just plug in the numbers and chug through the algebra. So minus 6 plus or minus square root of minus 6 squared. Make sure that's in brackets when you put it in your calculator. Take 4 times minus 8 times 3. All over 2 times minus 8 on the bottom. So what have we got? Well, minus 6 will turn into plus 6 because that's two negatives. And then we're going to put all this in our calculator, so maybe minus 6 squared. Take 4 times minus 8 times 3 gives you 132 over minus 16. Great, so that's sort of your final answer if you like. Pretty much as simple as it's going to get, and that is two answers there. Now, if you do want your approximate values, you can get them. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 6 plus root 132 over minus 16. And you're going to get minus 1.093. And if you do the other way, so you're going to get 6 take root 132 over minus 16. You're going to get 0.343. Now let's have a look at the graph of this quadratic. So it's minus 8x squared take 6x plus 3. And those are our two x-intercepts, which match what we got with the quadratic formula. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, now let's see another example. So here we've got one. 2x squared plus 12x plus 18. So a is going to be 2, b is 12, c is 18. And then we're going to go through this. So x equals minus b plus or minus square root of b squared take 4ac over 2a. So that's going to be minus 12 plus or minus square root of 12 squared take 4 times 2 times 18 over 2 times 2 on the bottom. Let's keep going. All right, so let's figure out the square root first. So that's 12 squared take 4 times 2 times 18 gives you 0. Cool. So minus 12 plus or minus square root of 0 over 4. So you're going to have two answers here. Well, you're sort of not actually, because square root of 0 is just 0, minus 12 plus or minus 0. And you see that adding or not taking off 0 won't change anything. So all you get is minus 12 over 4, which is a very, very fancy way of writing minus 3. So that's our x-intercept, minus 3. Now let's have a look at this graph and see what's going on. 2x squared plus 12x plus 18. All right, cool. So that graph is just touching the x-axis on minus 3. So I sort of only got one x-intercept. It's just sort of touching it and then going back up. We call that a double x-intercept. So you can see with quadratics, they can either touch the x-axis like that and have one solution. They can be a bit downwards and then have two, or they could be completely above it and have none. So let's see an example of where it has no x-intercepts. X squared take x plus 1. So you're going to get a equals 1, b equals minus 1, c equals 1. So x equals minus b plus or minus square root of b squared take 4ac over 2a. That's a quadratic formula. We'll plug in our numbers. So that's plus or minus square root of minus 1 squared. Take 4 times 1 times 1. All over 2 times 1. So that becomes 1 plus or minus square root of, well, that's 1 take away 4. So that's minus 3 in the square root over 2. And the problem that we have here is we have a negative number in the square root. As soon as you try and work out something like root minus 3, your calculator is going to get very upset. So the problem is, think of like trying to work out square root of 4, for example. Well, 2 squared gives you 4. But also minus 2 squared gives you 4, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So that's good, there's two answers. But if you work out root minus 4, there's no answers. Because how would I square a number and get it to be negative? It can't happen. So no real solutions. Is what we get there. So let's have a look. X squared take x plus 1. And you can see that's sitting above the axis. It actually doesn't have any x-intercepts at all. That's why we couldn't get something with the quadratic formula. So with the quadratic formula, the way that you can tell what you're going to get is, check it out. The thing inside the square root, when it's negative, you get no answers. Here, when it was 0, you just get the one answer. And back up here, when it was positive, you get two answers. Just like this first example where it was positive as well, this is 100, and you get two answers. So that thing inside the square root is called the discriminant, and we usually label it with a triangle there. And then there's this handy dandy chart to remember. Positive, you get 2. If it's 0, you get 1. And if it's negative, you get none.